he would always tell me the story. The years that I would prioritize my family, I'd make more money. Yep. And I don't think it's a trade-off. That like, I think my dad was like, you know what, God, I'm going to do what I'm responsible for, but I need you to do what you're responsible for. Yeah. And so God brings these like financial opportunities and things that like I couldn't have even spun up myself.
Sometimes the clearest picture of grace shows up in places most people would pass by. Rust, wreckage, and things that look forgotten. Welcome back to Stand Up Dude. Today's guest is Jason DeMeo. Jason is a contemporary artist, entrepreneur, and creative leader based in Tennessee. He's built creative ventures, helped shape environments and brands, and spent years working where art formation and innovation meet. But what makes this conversation worth having is not just the art or the business, it's the deeper question underneath it all. What is beauty for? What is man really living for? And what happens when meaning, image, and success start asking to be worshipped?
Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.
We're glad you're here. We like the hat, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
guys.
Good hat.
Early adopters. Let's go.
Yeah, we are. We're repping all of our people that come on the pod.
I appreciate it so much.
Tennessee hat, man.
It's been fun.
I'm the only one not with a hat. Now I feel
Yeah,
I know. I
feel a
kind
little
of said,
naked.
as I said that, I was like, I feel like I just put shame
Yeah,
all over
I know.
you.
That's all right.
I'm sorry.
Only
You'll
I
get
had
there.
a hat. No, I do have hats. I left it at home today.
See?
You're a creative. You're an entrepreneur. You're a father. You wear many hats.
Yes.
That was a pun.
Yep.
That was a good one.
Yep.
Will you talk a little bit about art and family and how all this stuff sort of intersects? Why do you do all the things you do? What drives you?
Oh man, that's a big one.
I just go to the deep end.
Yeah, that was.
Why not?
Jump right in.
Let's go.
Let me think here for a second. And how do
What
I
fuels all that?
synthesize all of those things? Man, I feel like just that creative impulse, I think, is big for me. We were talking about it earlier that like you're created in the image of God, and the first image of God is to create. God is creator. Like that's what we literally see in Genesis 1. So I think creativity fills a lot of my world. And I think that, when I think about my marriage, I think of it in a way that like this is a creative work that we're putting together, an artwork in a way.
I love it.
My relationship with my kids, like you can just kind of like parent your kids and let them do whatever. And you see that a lot.
That's what Stu does.
Yeah, I know guys like this that don't wear the TN hat.
Yeah, I know. For shame.
It's coming the whole time, buddy.
I just need a
Get
hat
ready.
to fix all that.
Yeah, that's right.
Or it's this like really intentional, thoughtful, creative act that you're kind of working on together. So I think that artist is a hat that I wear. I think creativity is probably even the meta thing that guides my life. So yeah, I just attending to that creative impulse wherever I'm at, I think is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. What would you say is kind of like where your creative eye originated, or at least when you first remember it, how you started to see the world? How do you see the world?
Yeah. I feel like I grew up in Pittsburgh area.
Okay.
And Pittsburgh's kind of known for being a little dirty, little gritty,
a little rusty.
Yeah. You got steel, you got coal, you've got all that kind of stuff. Grew up, cheering for the Steelers. It's just kind of gritty brand of football. So artistry wasn't really like celebrated that much. Even in high school, I was a sports guy, baseball, football, played in both high school and college. And that was where I got a lot of identity from. But looking back where my eye may have started, I think about my photography class that I had in high school and like just going into the dark room and like, this is so cool to see this develop. And then I think about my ceramics class that I had. And when I was supposed to be lifting with all my football buddies, I was always like kind of like stealing away and doing ceramics. My coach would find me like, get back in here, get to lifting, all this stuff. I love sports. They taught me so much. I still play sports like competitively. Like I love it. But I could just see that like early impulse to be creative and to be artistic in a way. So I think it was always there, but it just wasn't as celebrated or attended to. And then in my work, I'm trying to, I think, bring together kind of an old and a new vibe where it's like, when you look at it, you're like, man, that looks like it could have been around for a long time, but also feels like fresh too. And so I think old bridges, rust, decay, like colors that are the colors of decay in a way, they're worn, that are weathered, have always spoke to me a lot. So I'm always trying to kind of achieve that in some way with my process. And
I know a lot of men like will build things because it's our job.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we have to build it, but there's no real passion behind it. But for others, it is something where it's like meaningful. Underneath that, though, sometimes I think is the temptation to do it because we're looking for worth somewhere. Have you found yourself in that ever, where you're just like, I'm doing this to find myself somehow or find my worth in something?
I think you're probably always doing that.
Yeah.
You know, like in different levels of your life. Like I could probably look back on, you know, my first layer of I worked at Geico. I was in like corporate America. And I was like, I think trying to prove that like I'm a man, like I can like provide for my family, and like my dad was in business, and so it was like it just kind of made sense for me to kind of like, that was a way that I could impress people, where I could find validation, and so that was kind of like that era. And then I think if you do the work, maybe your heart starts shifting. And then for me, kind of, I guess even getting into kind of like my past, like I decided, man, this isn't for me. I went back, got a master's degree in ministry leadership, and decided I want to be a pastor. Like that seemed like the best way to use my gifts and my skills, and like to probably find a bit of that validation that I needed in a different way. So I think that it's always happening. I think earlier, probably leaving college, you're probably the most blind to it happening. And then I think as you keep growing through the years, as an artist now, I feel like I'm less, you know, building an identity for myself and more just kind of like living out my identity.
Yeah.
And there's definitely areas of that where it's like clouded with me or my ego, or, you know, I'm an Enneagram 4. So artist kind of fits right on the nose for me. But I had to work through a lot of that. Like, I'm going to be an artist because I want to be different than everybody. And I think that can kind of get away of speaking universally to people if you're just always trying to have a chip on your shoulder, be different. So I think it's just about, it's really self-awareness, and then trying to move in a direction that is not self-centered and more others-centered. So it just takes time.
I feel like that is the thing of art, is like creating something for others. And you do get something out of it, but then like the temptation is you slip in. You see it in like musicians and bands and stuff. They'll get really big, and suddenly they kind of lose the plot a little bit. And then it's like, it's all about me. It's all about, and that's when it starts to slip away.
I think that it's part of art is self-expression, but I think sometimes we get caught that is what an artist does. They express themselves. And I think that is one layer, but I think you're also trying to speak to your context, like what's happening in the world, politically, spiritually, you know, like culturally, like, so you're kind of putting yourself in a context. And then I think at least I'm trying to speak not only personally, but universally, so that like if someone looks at my art, it's not just like, oh, well, I guess that's Jason's story and his art. Like, good for him. Like, that's nice. But that they would hopefully see something that my art, in a way, I think as it's matured, I'm like, I want it to serve people. I don't want it to be self-serving, and that like, it's just for me to express my emotions, get them out on a canvas. Now I'm like, oh, how am I a healer? How am I a servant to the people who come to my art show, that like they would leave in a way that they feel like I'm a better person because I engaged that art, not just Jason's a really unique guy. Like that's, I think, the basic impulse that might've got me into art, but it's not a great sustainer of long-term good art, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, dude. Well said.
Thanks.
Hey, you guys might have noticed the hats we've been wearing in some of the episodes here. These are from our friends over at Tennessee Hats. Everywhere we go, people are stopping us, asking us about these hats. And we were like, hey, we would love to be able to talk about them on the show and even make them available for you guys. So if you would like to grab one of these hats, you can go to the link in the show notes and get yours today.
As far as like men listening right now who are probably creative in their own ways, entrepreneurial in their own ways, how have you learned how to guard that part of you that wants to build art in your image and for your gain? Like, is there anything you've learned to do or ask yourself, like even just on a practical level or on a spiritual level, where you're like, this is how I pay attention to that thing in me? And maybe monitor it to some degree. Not that we can always fully control, but like that how do you pay attention to it in your own heart?
That's really good. I think having a a wife
who keeps you grounded,
who calls you out a little bit.
Yep.
That's not the only thing as men. I mean, I'm sure a lot of men listening might not have a wife, whatever.
Yeah.
But having people in your life. I'm an introvert, so friends over the years have been a part of my life, but I'm really pretty self-sufficient. Like I'm happy to be alone in the studio, and I think that's a little bit of a blind spot for me. But I think the way that God may have gifted me to help that blind spot was a very honest wife who's like really willing to be like, hey, what? Ooh, this kind of feels like that's not going to connect with people, or like, why are you doing it that way? Asks you good questions. So I think if you have the maturity, and I haven't always had the maturity to do this, but to like take that from her and be like, man, internalize that. I think just someone in your life, mentor, wife, person, friend, that can kind of like see you for you, love you for you, but then also be like, man, Hillary celebrates me so well. And I think that gives you that right to then, once you've been celebrated by someone, you're like, you might be a little more open to them saying like, hey, that doesn't hit. So I think that externally, but I think internally for me as an internal processor, I think probably meditation has helped me more than anything. Like literally sitting alone with myself, with God, and just like allowing all the external things to kind of fall away.
Yeah.
And music helps me in that too. Just some like literally background music. Yep. I meditate almost every day in the shower. Like I just kind of like sit down, just take some time to just like think. You're in like this closed space. So for me, I love now, I used to be much more introverted where I'd get anxiety and, like to go out, hang out with people. Now I like love it. I love the people who I do life with, but I just feel like I lose myself when there's too much external stimulation. Yeah. And I'm just like, what am I doing this for? Yeah. Like what, not in a bad way, just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like that I like right now, Hillary knows it. And I need like a two night silent retreat. And like, we're just trying to like sync up calendars right now. Cause we've been talking about this question, like, what do you want? Like we were saying this earlier, like, it's like, I think the biggest question, and the question Jesus asked a lot of people, and I feel like I can tell you that in various areas of my life, but I feel like there's a new level of like power and like, I don't know, just creativity that God wants to unlock in my life. Yeah. But God wants to know what I actually want. And I have to get really silent, I think, to like know that, and then to be able to like stand on business with that, where I'm like, I go to God and be like, I actually want this and think this is where I want to go. Yeah. So I think silence, reflection, good people in your life. Yeah. Yeah.
I know around art, around anything creative, there's a lot of language that we'll use: truth, beauty, goodness, like all those things. And they're very real things. They're very good things. Yeah. I think the weirdest part of it is they either point a man to God or they point them to a substitute for God. Yeah. Like it's either God or it's an idol. And I wonder how a man can know, like how do I balance those things? How do I make sure that my good desire for beauty, for art, for creativity doesn't silently just slip into idolatry in some way?
That's so good. Well, I think almost anything can slip into idolatry, really, like whether it's truth, beauty. Jesus in a lot of ways could be an idol. It's like we make this thing that we think is Jesus, and then we give all our time to that, but it's not maybe really the real Jesus. It's like you almost have to repent of the way you think about Jesus. So like any language, anything can almost become, I think, an idol. So I think it definitely applies to beauty and those type, I don't want to say those type of people, that sounded very judgmental, but like a person who's like, like me. Like really committed to like, I'm going to be the truth warrior. I know what truth is. And they're going to like put you in your place and you feel that like judgmental spirit. And I've been there before where it's like, I know this and this is how it's going to be.
There's like no love, no grace.
Yeah, there's no love and there's no grace. And really, I think what you're asking and what maybe my take on it would be is like, do you see the fruit of the Spirit in this person's life as they pursue beauty, as they pursue truth, as they pursue goodness? Because like for me, if I'm pursuing beauty, but there's not like a patience in the art, and there's not like a self-control in the art, and like, I don't know, it's like if whatever you're pursuing lacks the fruit of the Spirit, it's probably going to become an idol in your life.
Wow.
You know, so
That's so good.
Dang.
So yeah, maybe that's like, are you able to reflect and have other people who can reflect with you? Like, how are these things that you're pursuing in your life, the church?
Yeah.
We were talking about pastors. It's like, do you have someone in your life, like just because you're talking about God and just because you're leading a group of people who are going after God, does your life actually have the fruit of the Spirit in it? And is it lacking? Where is it lacking? We're all lacking in areas. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good, man. I feel like something you said hit me. I mean, everything you just said hit me. But one of the things, even to back up a bit, that's like pinging is you were like, we're trying to sync our calendars to go, I need to go take a couple nights or days or whatever to like have a silent retreat. What would you say to a man who just heard that? And we kind of passed by it, we moved on, we're kind of thinking about other things. And I feel like we need to slow that down for a minute.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends, you know, a lot of dudes, a handful, I should say, maybe not a lot, Stu and like 3 others. But
that's pretty good for men nowadays.
Yeah,
you got a few friends.
3 or 4.
I saw someone make a joke the other day, like, Jesus did all these miracles. That was incredible. But that he had 12 true friends is really the miracle.
That is,
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and some of them weren't even sure if he was who he says he was. They were still rocking with him. They're like, he does get a lot of free things.
Yeah.
Free Tennessee hats. But I kind of go like, you talked about solitude, you talked about rest, and you talked about slowing down. And I think if there's men like me who are driven and they're passionate and they're trying to take care of their families, they're trying to leave something for their children from a monetary, from an emotional, from a presence. And it can feel I'm feeling it these days, like overwhelming to be a man because everything I spin up and I make has to be managed. And that becomes exhausting. Like I get weary. And then you're going like, I just know there's like a healthy awareness of how unhealthy something can become in me. And you saying that, I go, I bet there's dudes listening like, wait a minute, he's going to go take 2 days when he's got responsibilities and companies and business and art and family. And isn't that irresponsible to like, I think a lot of men see silence and pausing as like irresponsible.
So
Like, what would you say to the man who maybe feels that way? What are you hoping to benefit from that time for yourself?
And there's so much in that. I feel like I've gotten to a place where for me, I know myself enough that it would be irresponsible for me to not do that.
Wow.
And I feel like I have a relationship with my wife. I mean, we're going to have 20 years.
Come on.
So it's like me being able to advocate for a 2-day silent retreat 20 years ago would have been like, what do you think you're doing, bro? Like, you know, we can't do that.
I need you.
Now I have an advocate in Hillary that says, you're kind of been in a bad mood lately. Like, why haven't you played tennis? You know, like, so I think that like, I'm trying to build a life. And when I think about those responsibilities, and I've even had like thoughts about the word responsibility, because like responsibility as a word conjures up these ideas of like doing the right thing. Like I'm a man, I'm going to provide, I'm going to do all these things. But I've always thought like if you broke it down into 2 words, response, ability, like you have an ability to respond.
Wow.
And that's how I frame it in my mind. Yes, I could spend those 2 days trying to bust down the doors to get new collectors of my art or whatever that might be more responsible. But I'm actually trying to respond well as a dad, as a husband, as a person who has a vocation, as an artist. And it's like, if I don't tend to my soul, I'm going to break down. And I've had breakdowns in business and in things where it's like, I end up having a panic attack or I'm having like, I'm not caring enough for my soul. So it's actually irresponsible for me to build a world where I know I'm going to break down. So I'd rather people be able to like, depend on me and be like, maybe I'm not grinding as hard or maybe I'm not like producing as much as the other guy, but hopefully I'm building a life that will be abundant in production and in creativity that long-term, I've got a long-term vision rather than just like a short-term, like, well, I don't deserve a 2-day thing. I don't know. I'm just trying to create I don't know if it was Maxwell or whoever, but like they put the big rocks in first and then you surround it with the other. And I think I was told certain things were the big rocks. And then as I get older, I'm like, oh, those aren't even the big rocks.
Yeah.
Like, and also it kind of gets back to like, who do you trust? Who are you putting your trust in? I think is something I'm working on as a man, because it's like, man, I can work and make money and do all these things. But I kind of like him saying, like, I'm the one who's going to provide all of this for my family. And I think we should work hard and provide for our families. But deep down, I think I believe something bigger. And I believe that, like, God cares for the birds of the field and, like, knows the numbers of hairs on my head enough that, like, if I just show up and bring who I am to this world and I want to work. It's not that I don't want to work. I
100%.
love working.
Yeah.
I love, it almost is becoming like play for me to work. So I love waking up and working, but I'm actually taking that responsibility off of me and being like, actually, that's God's. God is going to provide for me and my family, and I'm just going to show up, do my best, walk out the best I can this day.
Yeah.
And I think that type of stuff, silence and solitude and retreat,
So good.
are a part of that.
Yeah.
Trust in God.
Yeah.
That, hey, you're going to cover my family.
That's right.
During that time, or you're going to bring me the right job or the right next commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I got just a couple directions I could go with that too. Like real quick, I'll talk about my dad. My dad passed away, a few years ago from ALS.
Oh, geez.
Very tragic. And was like a really good guy. Like exhibited the fruit of the Spirit really well. And I remember him, he would always tell me this story, and we weren't like fabulously rich as kids. We were like middle class, like, he was an entrepreneur. He did his own thing. And he was like, I remember him telling me that, like, Jace, I thought I had to work more. And whenever I ended up like saying, I'm going to spend time with you guys, I'm going to coach your games, I'm going to do these things, it was weird. He was like, the years that I would prioritize my family, I'd make more money.
Yep.
And I don't think it's a trade-off. I don't think it's like,
a remedy.
Not a magic
like
formula.
almost like tithing, where it's like, if I give 10%, I'm going to get
I'm
more
gonna
back.
be blessed.
Yeah, exactly. But there is a principle there that, like, I think my dad was like, you know what, God, I'm going to do what I'm responsible for, but I need you to do what you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's shown up in my life too, where it's like, if I take care of, my personal life, my family, my kids, my friends, my community, like, God brings these like financial opportunities and things that, like, I couldn't have even spun up myself, that I'm like, oh, this is God. I can only give you credit for this.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like there's like, no, dude, that's a beautiful answer. And I feel like there's such truth to the idea of, like, some of the best things we create is when we're rested and when we're playful. I think about, I have a mentor, and one of the things he tells me all the time, he's like, do whatever's hardest. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, do whatever's hardest. If resting is hard for you, then do a whole lot of resting.
Yeah.
If letting go of work is hard for you, then do a whole lot of letting
That's
go
where
of
your work is.
That's
like,
where your work is.
Yeah.
And some other dude,
That's
he
so
needs to get off
true.
his butt and freaking put a hand
That's
to the
so
plow
good.
and grind a little bit, because that's
so
what's
good.
hard for him.
Yeah.
And often what's hard for us is, I think, the invitation. For me lately, it's definitely been like I might need to like slow down. I mean, we went on, air quotations, a vacation to California for 10 days. And if it's a pie chart, I probably rested about 20%.
Yeah.
And 80% was in my head, thinking, planning, taking meetings.
Yeah.
All of that. And some of that I do have to do. It's part of my job.
Yeah.
But I had the freedom to go and be, and I couldn't let myself be. And I think my work often is getting out of doing, getting into being.
So good.
And I think there's other guys that I hang out with sometimes, like, bro, you just need to stop talking so much and
100%.
go do something. You know what I mean? Like, and I need to shut up and just be still.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there's just something to that. Like, it's hard. And I think we should just say that out loud as men. Is like, it is very hard to hit the brakes, because it does feel like it's on us. And it's easy to believe the lie that I'm the man of the house and I got to do all this. It's on me.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it either God is true in what he said, and he's you are his kid. And though you look like 40 or 50 or 60, if you're watching, or 70 or however old you look, you're a little child who needs a father and a shepherd, and that's who he is.
Yeah. One of my biggest, it's not my biggest regrets, but something I have been thinking about a lot lately, very similar story. Like 2-3 years ago, I think it was 2023 summer, we took like an 8-week road trip.
Wow.
And we had a trailer, truck. We drove, hit all the national parks.
Oh, wow.
But I wasn't working at the time. And I was taking this trip and missing out on an opportunity to start a job that then later on they were like, oh, well, we didn't think you'd be back, so we just didn't call you back. Like, so this anxiety, same thing, where it's just building on me. And I was never in the moment, very rarely in that entire 8 weeks. And now I've thought, all I want now is to go back and do that again and just be like, I don't care. I'm here. I'm going to look at that beautiful mountain. I'm going to spend time with my son, spend time with my girls, and just be there. You know, I'm not going to be going, I can't enjoy this because I got to make money. I got to figure out something. And it's like, God had me. You said it earlier. He cares for the birds of the air, you know, and the flowers of the field. I either choose to believe that or I choose to believe he's lying. And there is no in between. Like, well, maybe he'll care for this one, but what about that flower over there? I think I have to go, no, I fully accept that you, God, are in control. You've got this. I have my responsibility, but I tend to responsible, you know, take more responsibility than is mine. Like, take God's.
I mean, I've always loved like the idea of faith and works. I feel like it's a nice paradox that scripture like gives us, where it's like, I believe that God's going to take care of me, but also like it says to work, you know? And I think probably we're somewhere on that spectrum where one probably is easier for you. If you're like, man, faith comes hard to me, you're probably out there grinding, I'm going to make it happen. You know, like if works don't come as easy to you, you're like, man, God's going to take care of it, you know, like, and I do think that there's that like beautiful tension that God's trying to create for us, because the work's fun, and the work, not even fun, that's the wrong word. The work is meaningful. The work is important to us. Like, we're supposed to work, but then we're not supposed to work in a way that doesn't recognize that God is taking care of us. So it's like, I think that really is where the best lives are led, in the middle of that, like where you're working hard, but you're believing hard.
I hear you.
Well said, man. I know a lot of guys know how to talk about, you know, creativity and depth and purpose and all of those things, but maybe under the surface, they're still being ruled by that ego sense of self and don't know it. I know that was me for many, many years of my life. Like, I'd put Jesus's name on all my cool ideas, and I'd be like, he told me to do it. It's for him. It's got to be pure, right? What is that like disconnect in our hearts? I mean, as somebody who's a creative and you're a feeler, you think deeply, you feel deeply. What do you think that exposes in us, that we can almost trick ourselves sometimes into thinking like, I'm good, and all my pursuits are good, and what's the role of walking with Jesus in those things and being careful and mindful? Because the world would say, every creative ambition, run. Every entrepreneurial idea, run. It's like, what is the role of resting and being still and allowing our hearts to sort of bubble with truth a little bit and linger a bit?
I think that there's a danger, especially for Christians, people who might call themselves Christian, or that like you don't want to be using God's name in vain all the time. Like when I think of like, I grew up, what does it mean to like use God's name in vain? It was like, just say, oh my God. That was what it meant. It's, you know, like, I was like, don't do that. I still don't really do it that much, because I'm like, that's still in the back of my mind.
Like it might be real.
I don't actually think that's what the scripture's referring to. I think it's this idea of like almost baptizing whatever you're doing in the name of God. Like I thought about like, you know, the scripture, it's always one that stuck out to me. Is like, many will say, Lord, Lord, but like, then when I see you, I'll say, I didn't even know you. And I feel like it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm doing something for God, but there's all this ego underneath. Like, it's like that's a weird thing that you can easily kind of, paper over your own ego and your own work that you need to do, that Jesus isn't going to do for you. You know, like, he'll be with you in that work. But I think sometimes that Christians get in a lull, because it's like, well, I'm doing this for Jesus, or I follow Jesus as my savior. It's like, yes, but you still have to do the work with the Spirit, you know? So I don't even know where you were. What was the question?
I love that. Everything you said was perfect.
Okay. It was just,
it's so good.
Like, I think that just because you follow God, or you have faith, it doesn't mean that ego is not still there.
That's right.
Driving, or you can see it in a lot of people. I see it in myself. Totally. You know, it's like, oh man, that was I got mad at that person, or I got like defensive about this, or, whatever it is in your marriage. I mean, that ego comes up real quick where it's like, whoa, like, was I really that? Why was I that mad about that? Like, that wasn't like really me, you know, like in my heart, that wasn't the fruit of the Spirit. So
that's right.
I think it's just important work for everybody. It's like, like, how's your ego?
Yeah.
You can't get rid of it completely. It's like, how's it affecting what you're doing?
Yeah. What do you think truly meaningful work, creative or just work, can actually give a man when he's doing it from that place of like, I'm doing this for God. This is what He has called me to do. This is almost worship.
Yeah. I was thinking about that coming over here. Like I'm, riding here, and I was like, what meaning? There's a lot of like questions about meaning and things that you guys wrestle with. And I was like, I don't know, something like struck me and it was like, oh, you've always liked Ecclesiastes. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what's that? Because that's like the opposite. It like opens up, like literally, like, like it's like everything's meaningless. Start thinking about it. And then I'm like, thinking about, okay, well, what is actually in Ecclesiastes? And I was like, there's a scripture in there that I really liked. And it talks about like, what is good for a man to do? It's like to eat, drink, like enjoy your wife and enjoy your work. Like those were like the 4 things that it was like talking about, like literally be present, like eating the food that you're being grateful, like enjoying the life and the work and the people that are around you. I think Solomon's like, I pursued everything. It's all meaningless. And then he's like, what's actually meaningful are these relationships, your work, and then like just like enjoying life, like like a kid almost, like your food and your drink and like whatever it is. And then I was like, I asked Claude real quick, I was like, was there any other like main objectives of Ecclesiastes? Like, because I feel like there was something about like fearing God too in that. And I feel like it went from like, and I was like, I feel like this is great, like for me and for men in general, where it's like Solomon's imperative was first to take the pressure off of you. His first inkling was to say like, oh, forget it. It's all meaningless. Like all these businesses and things you want to do, it actually doesn't matter. Like, don't worry about it. Like, and it kind of like, oh, okay, if everything's meaningless, like I'll just enjoy life. And it kind of like puts you in that next phase of like, okay, what should be meaningful? It's like, okay, my kids, my creativity's meaningful. My, just like being present. So it's like, but then I think it ends with this idea that like fear God and keep my commands. And I think that that's such a beautiful ending. And I don't think fear is not like, I think it's more reverence, it's awe, it's wonder. It's like, man, God is so big. That if you keep God's commands, if you have those at the core of what you do, you're actually going to live a meaningful life. It's going to be service to others. It's going to be help to heal the world, bring a beautiful. So it's like you're going to have meaning if you do those 3 things. And then I thought of it in a way like that's exactly what I would want my kids to feel. Like that totally made sense to me. Like if like little Lake's growing up, I think this kid could be like an unbelievable pro athlete. Like he's huge. He's 99 plus percentile. All he wants to do is like run and play like sports all day. And I'm like, this kid could be, but it's like, I would never want to put that, you better be a professional athlete, like, or whatever. I want to remove that off of me. I want to be like, that's all meaningless. If you become a pro sports guy, great. But it's meaningless. It's great. I would love that for you. But that's not what it's about. That's right. What it's about, Lake, is your sister. Loving your sister. What it's about is loving your mom and me and our relationship. And you know what? Having fun, enjoying your life, waking up, enjoying play and all and childlikeness and all these things. And then I think I would think like, I hope he likes my commands or keeps my commands. Give your all at everything that you do. Be a man of your word. Like these things that I've got from God, but I'm passing along
100%,
are like, it just seems natural to me that those 3 things, take the pressure off, enjoy your life, and then keep the commands that I've told you. And I think if you put those 3 things together in your life, you're going to be working from a good place.
I love that, dude. That's so well said. And I love the way those 3 things even point back to go back to something we're talking about and move it forward. Like those 3 things seem to be, in my mind at least, point towards that, ironically, depart from me, I never knew. I long to know you. And if you do these things, and it's not a doing, it's actually a being first. If you'll be first and realize none of the doing is going to help you be more. But if you'll just be who I made you to be, life will be light. You'll have joy. whatever comes, success or suffering, you'll steward it well.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll get the most. You'll wring the rag out of it. You'll eat some good food along the way and drink some good wine if you're into that. If not, grape juice. Boring.
Yeah. Good grape juice.
Fainting goat.
Fainting
Yeah,
goat.
that's good.
That's the
Next
name of
sponsor.
this
Just an upper.
Next sponsor.
It's an upper, but
That's right.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a funny one.
It's
like,
an upper.
don't drink wine. You're like, Jesus literally drank.
100%.
Like, you said to do it.
That's
but
right.
They're like, well, I'm gonna have my coffee. You're like, okay.
Okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah. No drugs in that.
Yeah, that's so addictive. But yeah, man, I just think it all points back to that knowing. Even when you just said that scripture, I don't think I've ever heard it the way my heart just interpreted it. I don't know why, but for some reason in this conversation, just it's illuminating what is the heart of Jesus for his followers, and it is to know them.
Yeah.
Like in that passage, it's literally like, I did all these things in your name, and I healed people, and I cast out demons, and I healed the sick, and I helped the raise. Like, and you're like, he's like, yeah, you did stuff. You were doing stuff. I wanted to know you.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be with you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to eat with you and drink with you and have a great time with you and laugh.
And it's so shocking. It even comes as a shock to them.
Yes.
Like, and it would shock all of us.
what?
Like, well, I would have swore that guy.
That guy
Or
for
that
sure.
guy.
is
He
getting
was
it.
doing stuff.
Yes.
I haven't cast
He
any
did a
demons.
lot.
Yeah.
He was responsible.
Yeah.
He was effective
Yeah.
with
Well, I
his
mean, again, back to your
Calendly.
kids and your wife, and it's like, what do they want at the end of the day? It's like, but I did all this stuff for you.
Yeah.
And there is a beauty in providing and, money
Totally.
and these things that you want your kids to have, leaving a leg, whatever. But it's like, what do they want at the end of the day? They just
want
want to
you.
play with you.
Yeah.
What does your wife want? She wants to go have dinner with you. It's like, they just want to be with you, sharing connection.
Yeah.
And sure, you out of that connection, you end up doing all these things because you're just overjoyed to provide for them and to do these things. So, yeah.
Dude, how do you guys, and this isn't really like a question we were kind of going to go down, but I just want to ask, like, how do you guys architect life a bit to help flourishing and connection and eating good food and laughing together and making memories? And do you guys, are there intentional things? I know none of us are doing this crap perfect, but are there intentional things that you're like, do we lean into some things like this, or we meet at a certain time, we kind of talk about, take assessment? Is there any rhythms or practices just naturally for all of us kind of listening right now?
It's really good. I mean, it's been, like I said, 20 years. There's been years we've done it better, years we haven't. Weeks we do it better and weeks we don't. But kind of like a Monday morning meeting is good for Hillary and I usually. We're calendaring out. Calendar's so important.
I know.
Like, and I shirk it sometimes. I just want to just live in the moment or whatever,
go.
you know, like YOLO, we'll see what happens this week.
Vibe it.
Vibe out this week.
Vibe it.
Sometimes it works,
It's like,
sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's so important to, like, if we get it on the calendar early, it's fine. Like, I can be like, oh, I need to play tennis on this day, and then I'm going to have a 2-day retreat. It's like, you just need to think in a year or 2 years ahead. So I do think just calendaring super important. Family wise, Hillary's always been such a huge proponent of dinner together. Like we're 5 days a week, like sit down dinner. Ellie is an amazing chef, my 11-year-old.
Wow.
So she like desires to be a chef someday, and she cooks at least 3 nights a week right now.
Oh, cool.
But it's a really sacred spot. No TV. I grew up kind of watching TV while we were eating dinner. You know, like, I mean, we were together, but I don't know.
Wasn't as connective as it could have been, maybe.
Sometimes we'd have the questions in the middle, but now it's kind of more natural. So, vacations are important. Trying to think if there's any other. We really try to do invest in the once a week date night. And then again, there's months we do it better than others, but I think it's good to like prioritize it. And the kids, I mean, I can see Ellie now. She loves it when we're touching or when we're kissing. You know, it's like she can sense now when hey Dad, what's wrong with you and Mom? You know, it's like she can sense that like tension.
Same with my kid,
Or it's like when there's love and there's free flow between us, you can just see there's such security for her.
Well said.
So I think just calendars and just really making those big rocks the big rocks.
Yes.
Like what's important is these connectional moments and
So
prioritizing them.
Have you seen, this is totally off topic.
I love that. I love off topic.
Have you seen there's this like video, it's like a, YouTube video or something. It's this little boy, and he's like one of those kids who has a personality. He's like 3 or 4 or something, and he's talking to his dad outside, who's sitting down next to his mom. He's like, Dad, I know what you're going to do. And he keeps going, what? Like, he's just laughing. And he's like, you're going to grab Mom's butt. Like, he keeps saying, and he's just like, son. And he's like, I see that look in your eyes.
I see that look
so
in your
hilarious.
eye.
But it's that
oh
same
my
thing you
gosh.
said, like, your kids look at you and they're just like, I love to see my parents love each other.
Connect. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. They
I
love
know
it.
that means a lot. Yeah.
I think one of the things, and we'll wrap up here in a minute, but one of the things that I've kind of seen lately, like, I can get, as a man, I can start shaming myself for not leading well in these areas, you know, and go, man, we used to do a weekly meeting.
Yep.
Ours is kind of on Sundays, and we nap the kids, but they're getting older, and it's like all these layers to that.
Yeah.
And then we kind of start our week really jolty because it's like, well, I didn't know you had that, and I didn't know you. Well, why didn't you say anything? Well, I put on the calendar when last night at 11:30 p.m. And I'm like, I was sleeping.
You didn't see
How
that?
Was I didn't see it. Like, you didn't wake up and hear the ping. Like, no, I'm sorry, I was sleeping.
He's on there. I'm going.
I'm being lighthearted about it, but like I've done the same thing in reverse where I'm like, it's been there for 3 days. Why didn't you? I'm like, I don't ever look ahead either. I'm kind of taking it one day at a time. And one of the things that I've tried to lean into lately is, rather than running from, like, there's actually healthy shame, like, right? Unhealthy shame is I'm a mistake, and healthy shame says I'm human.
Yeah.
And I miss it sometimes. Like, we actually say that in our house. Like, it's
good.
When we forget things, when we run into a wall and, you know, and it hurt, when our kids forget their cleats for the big baseball tournament, or it's like, oh my gosh, dude, what are you, human or something? And we laugh, and we all laugh, and we make it fun. 'Cause it's like, dude, like, Dad does it too. I was getting onto my son recently. This is a fun aside. I was getting onto my son recently, a couple days ago. I was like, bro, please stop eating like that, because you keep dropping all the rice on the floor, bro. It's driving me crazy. 30 seconds later, I'm doing the exact same thing. It's falling on the floor. The dog's like, you know, and that's gross to me, and it grosses me out. And I was like, and I looked at him, I was like, I guess I'm human, bro.
Yeah.
And we laughed. But I started like leaning into like the healthy side of that shame of like my humanity with my wife.
That's beautiful.
And we hadn't done a family meeting. I mean, I could be exaggerating, but somewhere around probably 2 months, like, just hadn't done it.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, can we just meet today? I know I've kind of sucked at leading this, if I'm being honest. And we have like 15 questions we go through in 30 minutes. So we put a timer on. It can't go over. And it sounds like a lot, but it's just quick. Like, we're kind of hitting the questions like, hey, is there anything we missed this week? Like, what did last week feel like for you? And
It's
we
really
just
practical
riff.
too, because sometimes I feel like, oh, this is going to take 2 hours.
Yeah, and we're going to talk budget.
I'm like, I'll never get out of this.
I was spending too much at Fainting Goat. So I did this. Ad placement.
It's like working out. It's like 30 minutes is probably better than,
every day.
Consistently is better than like 4 hours.
Yeah,
so,
crushing.
I love the timer idea.
So we put a little timer to it, and I think it's probably a bit for me as a fellow Enneagram 4, because we can spiral sometimes in all of our thoughts and feelings, and it's all touching, and because we see it, the world, through like sort of an interconnected thing. And so it's probably more for her to know, like, he's not going to do that. But again, that's my humanity. And it's like, dude, I'm working on that. God's working on me in that. But we limit it to 30 minutes, and it's beautiful. And we got done with it the other day. And one of the things, my son, he's 10, and he came up and he's like, you guys doing the family meeting thing? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you haven't done that in a while. I was like, yeah, I kind of not been great at that, just being superhuman. And he was like, I like when you guys do that. And I was like, why? Like, he's like, it's really cool to see you guys like talking, and he feels us sinking.
Yes.
He feels this like connectiveness, like mom and dad, that's it.
They're okay.
They're okay. And if they're okay, you know, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And man, I just want to say to anybody like listening to the pod right now or watching, like, if you've just not been great at it, even if you're a single dude and you're like, I'm just not prioritizing time super well, just know like you're not alone in that. Like,
100%.
We're all trying to figure it out. And I'll end here, and I just want to tee this up for you on this thought. I heard a quote by John Ortberg, actually, and he said, it's so good. He said, and I'll butcher it. Sorry, John. Like I know him, you know. Sorry, John, I'll text you later.
I owe you a cuff.
I owe you a fainting goat. I'm going to keep going. But he
probably lives in Franklin.
He probably does. He's probably at fainting goat right now, like watching live. We don't even have that. But like, what if he said, a disordered schedule is the result of a disordered heart. And lately, I've just stopped like living behind the lie that my disordered schedule is just, I'm not prioritizing, I'm not scheduling good, I need to be better at, and just going, actually, I think my heart's just messy right now. And I can just raise my hand and go, yeah, I'm feeling real human.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been feeling lately, is just like really human. And all my tactics of discipline and structure, and they're failing me because something's going on in here. My heart's trying to talk. And I just would love for you to speak to the man who's feeling that.
Yeah.
Just weighed down by like, all my systems are failing. All my structure is not working. I think something's happening in here and I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
How would you just encourage them in that?
Oh, man. Well, I think just first off, have a lot of grace for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, we want to be responsible. We want to be disciplined and all those things. But at the end of the day, I feel like even, what did Paul say? Like, I want to do this, but I end up doing this.
Yeah.
Like one of our greatest apostles is like, I want to act like this, and I know this is the way, but I keep doing this.
Yeah,
and
me
I
too.
feel like that's the human condition.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, a balance between, excusing that and just being like, well, whatever, I'm just going to live my life. And I think that's the wrong thing. And I think there's the opposite end of that. That's like really getting hard on yourself and being like, I'm such a dummy. Like there's other men out there that are just doing so much better for their families and
Yeah.
And so I think that tension in the middle is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't think God wants us to get rid of either of those things, where it's like you said, like a little bit of shame or regret or whatever that is like, it's good to sit in.
Yeah.
It's good to be there for a second. Like, don't just,
I'm human.
Don't just push that away. Like, let that sit. And then I think just ask yourself, what's like one small thing I could do to make it better? I'm terrible. I've realized my worst part of my creativity is my maintenance. I'm bad at maintaining creativity. I'm great at pushing. I'm great at finishing.
Wow.
But like, if you looked at my studio 6 months ago, it's always a mess. It's always a mess. And I used to think like, well, creativity is messy. It is. It's like, and it is.
It is.
But I actually started realizing my ability to maintain is actually hampering my free flow of creativity. Like I the mess is whenever I'm actually making the painting and all of that. I have these hangover messes that now I don't even want to engage the creativity because there's a mess. But so I've been working on it, and it's still not like something that's a strength of mine. But my studio, I worked really hard to get it like organized and labeled and all these things. And when I walk in there, I'm like, whew, I feel good. I feel like ready to create.
Wow.
And so that's not like, I'm not done with that discipline.
Yeah.
But I did do something small that now I can see it, and I can see like, wow, like that helped me. I was bad at that.
Right.
And now I've done something to help that.
Take
and I
action,
think that ability, I think that's life. That feeling that sense of agency that I'm in control. Not, in the sense that like God is overseeing the world, but you're actually kind of in control of your story. Where you take it, like it's on you. And I think God will support you and your friends will be there and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like the choices you make are your choices. So I think we all want that agency to see this is where I'm at. And I want to get to here, and I have the ability to get there. And I would just say, recognize your sin, your fallenness, your brokenness, where you're missing the mark, but then take one step in the direction of wholeness, of order, of creativity, or whatever that is.
So good.
Yeah.
So well said.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
We needed this.
We did.
I think
so.
we just needed it.
I think so. Yeah.
I needed it.
I don't really care if you guys liked it. This is great.
Yeah. This is a show just for
do
two.
this.
Just for us.
Yeah.
You want to wrap us up?
Yeah, man, I will. For the guys listening right now, if you're hearing all of this and you're like, I realize I have that disordered heart. It's not just about fixing my actions, but actually fixing the root. You can address that heart. Whether you claim to know Jesus now or you've never met him, you've never surrendered your life to him, you can meet him right here. It's the same solution. You can come to him and just say, Lord, I confess, man, I need something more than just processes and procedures. I actually need new affections, new desires. So you can say, Jesus, I surrender to you right now. I know I'm a sinner. I know I have a heart that is not functioning as you intended. And I want to surrender that to you, lay it at your feet. I know that you purchased me with your life, with your blood, and you have made a way that I can have new life. I can have salvation. I can have transformation. And Lord, you can say to him, Lord, I recognize too that I'm only as hard on myself as I choose to be. You have died for me. You have loved me while I was your enemy. While I was a sinner, you loved me. So if the God of the universe loved you like that, perhaps you can have the same level of grace and patience with yourself. So surrender to him now. You can do that. You can pray something just like that. Lord Jesus, I confess I'm a sinner. I need you. And if you prayed that prayer, we want to hear from you. You can hit us up at dudes@standupdude.com via email. You can reach us by just leaving a note on this comment on this episode, or you can go to standupdude.com/stand, and we have free resources there for you, especially if you just prayed along with us.
You crushed it, bro.
Okay, cool.
You must have an ordered heart.
Yeah, no, man.
No tea in hat, but
no tea in hat.
Everything else
it was
great.
The disorder that was going on, but again, Jason, so much. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we would love to have you back sometime.
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
Appreciate you, bro.
We'll see you guys next time.